J.D. Vance's response when you brought up steel in Ohio, and did you two talk about anything else?
It was just a quick greeting exchange. I highlighted that $2.2 billion worth of steel and aluminum exports from Canada go directly into the Ohio economy, often to contribute to manufacturing that happens there. He nodded and noted it, but it wasn't a longer exchange than that.
The White House says that the total tariffs on aluminum and steel could be 50%. What's your response to that, and why do you think that President Trump continues to escalate his threats?
I think it's important to understand that Canada will respond as appropriate in a calibrated but extremely strong way, regardless of what the U.S. moves forward with. We don't want to be in a trade dispute. We think that the best thing for all of us in North America is to continue to work together, to focus on some of the international trade challenges, whether it be non-market economies or rising authoritarian economies, that need to be countered by friends and allies working together on energy, on AI, on critical minerals, on the kinds of things that we can do to create shared prosperity across not just our continent, but all Western democracies. This is our focus. If we have to take some time to put that on pause while we stand up for Canadian jobs, while we stand up unequivocally for Canadian sovereignty, we'll do that. It's not our choice. We don't want to be doing that, but we will, regardless of the level of tariffs that eventually the administration might move forward on. We will be equally unequivocal in our response.
When Mr. Trump started talking about Canada being a 51st state, your government's original response was to say that it was a joke. Now you're saying that this is a real thing. Can you take us into your mindset? What was the moment that made you switch from thinking it's a joke to a real thing?
I don't think there's a switch. I think, as I've said unequivocally from the beginning, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will ever be the 51st state. At the same time, from having worked with President Trump for over 8 years now, I can tell you that we have to take seriously what he says and make sure we're responding appropriately. And quite frankly, the response of Canadians over these past weeks has been inspiring, as people have been there for each other, people have been changing their vacation plans, people have been looking at ways to buy Canadian, to support local businesses, to diversify their supply chains to places like Europe and Asia. This is a response of Canadians who are saying, yeah, this is going to be tough, but we're going to double down on Canadian pride and standing up for each other.
Trump again talked about Canada's defense spending, and at one point he said, we don't pay so much when it comes to defense spending. This is a quote, because they assume that the U.S. is going to protect Canada, and that's not an assumption that they can make. If there was to be an attack on Canada, would you expect that the U.S. would respond and defend Canada?
We are all members of NATO. I had a great meeting with the Secretary General of NATO this morning, and we're part of an alliance that is there to stand up for each other. And I will highlight that Canada does take very seriously its responsibilities around defense, not just of Canada, but of North America. NORAD is the only alliance in the world where two countries have agreed to work together to protect their own homeland, their own territory. There's no other place in the world where two countries work together, and we both do our share of it. We've actually recently invested even more, tens of billions of dollars in modernization of NORAD, because we understand that the world is changing. The peace dividends following the end of the Cold War are over. We need to be investing more in defense. That's why when we took office in 2015 and saw that defense spending was below 1% from the previous Conservative government, we started massively investing in defense, and we're on track to triple our defense spending between 2015 and 2030. And we have a solid and real plan to reach 2% in the coming years. This is something we have taken seriously, and we agree with all our allies, including the United States, that Canada needs to do more. That's why we are doing more.
And you told a room of Canadian leaders last week that Donald Trump is not bluffing about Canada becoming a U.S. state, partially because he wants access to Canada's critical minerals. So what is Canada actually doing to protect its sovereignty in the face of these threats? And would you consider ending critical minerals agreements with the United States?
I think the fundamental principle is that Canada is a reliable, trustworthy source of energy, of critical minerals, of inputs and ingredients into their manufacturing processes, into their prosperity, that Americans can rely on. That any thickening of the border, any tariffs that get put on Canadian imports will hurt American manufacturing, will hurt American consumers, and we don't want that. We want to continue to work together. So we're going to continue to highlight that it is much better for us to work together, but if we're going to continually be facing threats of tariffs, or if we get actual tariffs, we will respond appropriately and strongly, stand up for Canadian jobs, stand up for Canadian workers, and pull Canadians together as we demonstrate that we want to be there as a partner, but we will be there as a sovereign country.